on this computer.
Here we go.
Ding, ding. Hi, everybody. How are you? I'm so excited to have a Chris McAlister again. I am so pleased. Thank you, Chris, for your generosity. I cannot wait to hear about your new book, The Poet of Touch. You've been writing so many books. This is your new book. It's such a beautiful, beautiful baby. And I cannot wait to hear more about it, The Poetry of Touch. The title is poetic. It's like a Shiatsu, Japanese languages are such a poetic languages. We see the trees, we see the river, we see the stream, we see the love, we see the flowers. And I hope everybody will become such a beautiful flowers. Everybody can blossom your own beautiful flowers, go through the path and enjoy your life. So Chris, please tell us your new book.
Do you recognize the kanji here?
Yes, spirit, Rei.
Rei, Tamashi.
Rei. Yes.
And Ling in Chinese.
Yes.
This is all about the universal soul. And the book is inspired by all the years I've been involved with this stuff. Since 1986, roughly, I came in contact with all this stuff. And it's been a long journey, an excellent journey, fun journey, meeting many, many interesting people like yourself, Kumiko, and hundreds of thousands of others. And the first book came out 2 years ago, Touching the Invisible, and was lucky enough to do a show with you, Kumiko, on that very subject.
Great.
And while that book was being written, this book was also being written. And that book was written with my two colleagues, Jan Nevelius, Jeremy Halpin. But this is my solo piece, and it's there was a lot of material, far too much material for that one book. And so we have a new one, a new baby to look at and enjoy together.
Yes.
The Poetry of Touch. The reason it's called The Poetry of Touch is exactly as you said, Kumiko. Chinese medicine, Oriental medicine, Japanese medicine is poetic.
Yeah.
We describe things through poetry, we describe things through imagery, and we describe things through symbolism, because these things touch the soul directly, whereas facts and figures and tables and numbers do not touch the soul. So when we're doing shiatsu, especially when we're writing about it or telling stories or teaching it, we are storytellers.
Yes.
And one of our jobs is to keep the tradition going, but keep it alive and re-infuse it with life through the poetry, through the stories, and through the symbolism and the imagery. So that's the heart of this book, The Poetry of Touch. The journey that it's taken is from my very, very first article that I wrote. And I wrote that article purely for my patients and my students. So they would begin to understand the themes I was talking about while I was doing treatments and while I was teaching them. And one article followed another, and another, and another. And then I kept writing, and I was receiving encouragement from people who were reading these articles and enjoying them and able to understand them. And that's the way I write, for anybody to understand it. So, Kumiko, it doesn't matter if you've been doing shiatsu for 30 years or you've never heard of shiatsu. You should be able to read my texts.
Definitely. We are human beings. We have a soul. We have a spirit. Whenever you meet another human being, you feel their soul. You feel, ooh, it's exciting.
Exactly. So this is the nature of the book. And hopefully anybody, absolutely anybody, can pick it up and read it. And this book it's pretty chunky. It's pretty big. It's like 350 pages and it's huge. So it'll keep you busy for a while, and you can just open it anywhere and read something and then just put the book down and just think about that for a few minutes and then come back to the book another time and read another section. It doesn't have to be read from the beginning to the end. It can be read from the end to the beginning or just randomly anywhere.
You can just open the page and then you meditate and you feel vibration for the day, and then you go through any challenges you may facing, or you may having a great time, great day. It's anything, eh? You can enjoy. Challenges also is a life, and we need to go through. And it's a beautiful thing. We can always overcome. We can make something good from the challenges and difficulties. Pains is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Challenge is a major part of our life, and to try and learn the lessons of what the challenge is trying to teach us is very, very important. So as you said, this book can be used like any material as a kind of divination material. So you can just open it at random, see what the book says, and then from there maybe you can think of a new solution or a new angle or a new perspective on the situation at hand or the challenge that's facing you. So that's definitely one of the reasons I wrote the book. And there's an entire chapter devoted to the I Ching, the divination oracle. So that's one of the foundations of Oriental medicine, as far as I'm concerned. So there's a whole chapter on that and the dynamics of yin yang, among many, many other things. So what we have here is a collection of pieces of material which I wrote completely random on different subjects without any order at all. But then at a certain point, I realized that I had enough material to write a book, to put a book together. But the material was disorganized. It was all over the place. There was no structure. So I asked a friend if he could help me with this. And he said, sure, I can help you with that. So I sent him some of the chapters. And he sent them back to me and said, yeah, there's really good material. I'm sure you have a great book there. But it didn't really help me at all. It didn't give me any help, except a little bit of encouragement. But that night, Yumiko, I went to sleep. And I woke up in the middle of the night. And what passed before my eyes was the structure of this book as it became to be. So it gave me section by section the whole structure of the entire book, plus a whole load of other stuff that I was doing at the time. So I wrote it down in the middle of the night. And then in the morning, I took the list which I'd written of all the sections. And then I looked at all the chapters that I had, all the sections, all the articles that I had, and I put them one by one into the sections. And every single chapter fitted into a section. So I realized that I had a whole book there, but I also realized I had gaps. I had things that I needed to fill in. So I started to write new chapters for the book, and that process went on for another 3 to 4 years. And then during all the lockdowns and all the closures and all the restrictions, I managed to get some help and finish writing the book with some very devoted people. And I want to mention a couple of them. Noah Granot in Israel, who helped me a lot with this. And then later on, Barbara Drieskens, a Belgian lady living in Lebanon, who also helped me a lot with fine-tuning the content. Other people have helped me, of course, along the way. Many people, friends, students, colleagues. And I was lucky enough to get some very, very nice reviews from Stephen Brown, Mike Mandel, and Mikhail Mamishvili. So it feels like the book has got many blessings on its journey so far. One of the central parts of this book is this aspect of Ling. That character there, Kumiko is very familiar with it, but a lot of Western people won't be familiar with it. I'd like to just spend some time looking through the character and breaking it down a little bit so people can understand what it means and why it means what it means. Tamashi or Rei in Japanese, but Ling in Chinese. And it turns out there are 5 points on the body with the name Ling in them. And in a few moments, I'd like to do some practice with you around those 5 points, a certain Qigong meditation form that came to me about a year and a half ago, using these points on the body and the power of the Ling. So if we look at the character, Kumiko will be able to join me in the analysis of this chapter. We have an upper part of the character here, which means coming from heaven. We use it for rain, we use it for snow, we use it for mist, we use it for lightning. Anything that comes from heaven, this part here at the top is involved. The part in the middle, the 3 boxes there, they could be gifts. They could be entryways or exitways. They could also be mouths open in awe. The lower part means the shaman. That's Wu in Chinese. So we have the shaman, and above the shaman are these gifts from heaven, or the awe of the miracles from coming from heaven, and the communication going up and down to heaven through earth, through the body, through the vehicle, through the mind and the spirit of the shaman, giving these gifts to mankind, but also offering gifts to heaven. So this character, the universal soul, it's bigger than the private soul. It's bigger than the Shen, which we talk about, Shin in Japanese. It's bigger than that. It's more universal, and we share it with each other. We share it with nature, with the rocks and the trees, with the mountains and valleys. So this character here has become a really important one for me in the last few years, the last, say, 8, 9 years. A couple of my students alerted me to this, and I started to look at it. And as I started to look, I didn't find very much. There's not very much written on this subject in the literature. And even on the internet, there's hardly anything. But I found what was there. And I started to do my own investigations. And I started to use these 5 points. There's only 5 points on the body. And they are on the back, on the governor vessel 10, Ling Tai. On the top of the head, the gallbladder 18, Cheng Ling. On the chest here, kidney 24, which is Ling Shu. I'll explain the meanings of these characters later on. And on the arm, we have heart 4, heart 2, and heart 4. This is Qing Ling, the blue-green Ling, and this is Ling Dao, the way of Ling. So these 5 points are the only ones that have Ling in their name, the only ones you can find as far as I can work out. And I started to use them in treatments, and some really interesting things started to happen immediately. And I'd like to read to you from the book a little bit about the Ling experience. And it's almost the last chapter of the book. And I'd like to read you a few case studies, not case studies, I call them people stories, about what happened when I started to use these points in practice. So I've changed the names of all the people, of course, for anonymity, so that we don't get any confusion here. So these are not the real names. But Greta is a delicate, small-framed woman of medium height with mid-length gray hair and penchant for fine, natural fibers. She clothes herself in very high-quality Icelandic and Norwegian woolen garments of natural hues. In practice, this means every conceivable nuance of gray between off-white and charcoal gray. She is in possession of a fine but modest beauty, which rearing many children and living with long-term encapsulated trauma has strained considerably. We have been working through some very old trauma and some more recent issues, especially digestive ones. One day, I decided to move away from the trauma and pathology and work instead on the spiritual shine that was so often conspicuously absent from her visual and behavioral presentation. I informed her that I was using some points that operated on a fine spiritual level, since she had displayed a keen interest for the field and even attended a short course I had given on Oriental medicine. When she returned 2 weeks later, I asked her what effect she had noticed from our use of the Ling points. She shrugged and said that she had not noticed anything special. Slightly disappointed, I put that down to experience and carried on with the session at hand. Afterwards, as she was preparing to leave, I happened to see her putting on her coat. I performed a double take as I took in the garment she was donning, a gleaming white reindeer skin coat with a shine that was all new. I asked her about it, and she told me it was a coat she had ordered some time ago from a select tailor in the small and expensive streets of old Stockholm. This handmade coat was so beautiful and finely crafted as to literally stop your breath. It certainly stopped mine. Every detail was of the highest class and quality, and of course, it was made to measure. I asked her how come I'd never seen her wearing it before, and her response told me all I needed to know about the effect of the Ling treatment. Well, up to now, I'd never thought I was worth wearing it. So you see how much Ling increases the value of the person, their own self-worth. Gregor is a large man of retirement age, well-built, artistic, but what we might call the silent type. We talked about some of the difficult periods of his earlier life, and I received the impression he was still at a stage where he wanted to resolve some of the outstanding issues and re-assimilate what might be regained from them. He made it abundantly clear that he was not interested in any physical issues or symptoms. I found myself using the 5 Ling points and afterwards awaited, somewhat nervously, his opinion on their effect. To my astonishment, he recounted that he had found himself sitting at the bottom of the sea, observing images of his younger self from certain eras of trauma and difficulty. He smiled and looked contented with the result. I used these exact same points on 2 further occasions, and the effects were no less than miraculous. On the first occasion, he reported flying around in his childhood hometown. He was able to hover and stop at will to inspect certain things more closely, and laughingly described mundane situations in which women were talking inside a shop he used to frequent. The women were not aware of his presence, but he could clearly hear every word they were saying. Time had stood still in the sense that these people and things were exactly as he remembered them from his childhood. On the second occasion, it became apparent that part 1 was merely a prelude, a preparation of sorts for the real deal. He found himself this time in the workshop his grandfather used to run in his same hometown. This had been his favorite place to hang out as a child, since home was a lot less fun for various reasons: mental ill health, relationship issues, etc. He went on to explain that the shop was his haven, that he felt very close to and comfortable with his grandfather. Unfortunately, his grandfather died. Gregor was held back from the funeral by his parents, who deemed it unfitting for a child to attend, and who was thus unwittingly denied their son a precious occasion for emotional closure. This seemed to have left a kind of open wound, which Gregor readily acknowledged. He described the last photograph taken of them together, grandson on grandfather's knee, both holding soda bottles and smiling, raising a toast for the camera. He even sent me a copy of the photo, and it was abundantly clear that this had been a close, warm, and trusting relationship. Sadly, it was also one that lacked a satisfying conclusion. That is, until the Ling intervened. Natasha is a middle-aged woman with frankly admitted psychic powers and a caring nature. Also a healer, she came in for treatments quite regularly, since her belief was that a healer also needed healing. Treatments were often focused on the physical plane due to chronic pain experienced in traumatized knees and spreading throughout her body, at times almost uncontrollably. However, since her spiritual nature was so present and vivid, results were invariably experienced on various etheric planes. I used the 5 Ling points on one occasion, and she reported afterwards that her maternal great-grandparents had paid her a visit during the treatment. She had never even met these people in real life, but since they explained so clearly who they were and had access to detailed and privileged information regarding the generations in between them, she was confident that they were who they claimed to be. The reason for their visit was to deliver greetings and reports of well-being from Natasha's maternal grandmother. All was well, was the apparent gist of their message. The backstory was that her grandmother had always been bitter, unloving, and uncommunicative. That is, until one day when 3 generations of women had found themselves in the mother's kitchen, baking for a family gathering. For no apparent reason, the grandmother had opened her hardened shell and interacted in a warm, loving, and verbal fashion. This had gone some way to resolving the tensions felt by both mother and granddaughter. The great-grandparents were, it seems, also here to deliver some background information. It appears that they were rich and well-connected people, and their daughter had been born into an upper-class family of some wealth and privilege. Unfortunately, they both died suddenly while the daughter was still young. Orphanhood aside, this had the further unfortunate effect of propelling her out of her privilege and into extreme hardship and a life of service and manual labor, for which she was ill prepared. The bitterness she was overcome by did not begin to resolve itself until that day in her own daughter's kitchen. And although this had certainly eased tensions to some degree, it had not cleared up the mystery behind the years of insular bitterness. Fortunately, Ling is able to provide such explanations. These tales of Ling and the transformative power it seems to possess are fantastic enough, but the stories that follow are perhaps even more expansive and intriguing. Ivan is a young man of exceptional brightness and talent. Many-sided intelligence, lively curiosity, and quickness of wit are his primary characteristics. He asked for the Ling treatment and also requested an extended version of it, i.e., to be left to experience it for well over an hour. The treatment experience ranged through many different phases, and hardly any of them seemed particularly pleasant. Still, each time I inquired, he was insistent that the treatment continue. One part among many stuck in my imagination, since the description was so vivid. It involved a forest in central medieval Europe and the dredging up of dark, heavy energies. His experiences might seem better suited to one of the chapters in this book discussing Shiatsu and Jackie. Shiatsu in the Garden and Travelogue are two of those chapters. But since the Ling points brought them out, they are recorded here. Samuel is a slim, solid, faithful kind of person. He is trustworthy, highly talented, and extremely dedicated, though hardly exotic in any way. He is the kind of thoroughly likable person whom one would like to have by one's side in any kind of crisis. And his experience was different from Ivan's in just about every conceivable way. Initially, he experienced being outside of his body, pleasantly gazing down and around the room. He was enjoying this state of mind and body so much that he was disappointed when it shifted. This disappointment was rapidly forgotten. He gradually shifted into a state of being which he did not recognize and barely had words to describe. Slowly, he became aware that he was gazing at a cloud of gold and silver particles. Within the cloud, there was a shape, an absence that delineated some kind of presence. This being was entirely benevolent, and Samuel was completely relaxed in its presence. Once recognized, the being indicated that Samuel should redirect his attention, and a journey immediately commenced. He described it as traveling through worlds, through dimensions, none of which were even remotely familiar. The travel was connected at different speeds and took in many different kinds of shape, quality, and appearance. Some were of a more visual character, others involving aspects of light, while others still seemed to lack any clear visual identity and manifested rather in the form of movement or energy. There are other experiences of Ling I could relate, but I've rendered here the ones that I feel I can communicate with the greatest degree of clarity. One can see from the range of experiences described that they all took place on some kind of soul level. They involve aspects of personality, relationships going back several generations in time, and even personal soul experiences ranging not only through time, but also space. To say that Ling is unfathomable would be perhaps the most honest definition we could provide. If Ling is mysterious, then it seems to want to stay that way. Approximately 1 year after I began to initiate my relationship with the Ling points, I wrote these lines. Perhaps Ling means oneness, the feeling that all of nature is interdependent and interconnected. A living, universal energy field that sustains life while guiding the evolution of consciousness throughout the universe. If Ling is something like that, something as unfathomable as those lines indicate, isn't it equally miraculous thing that we can assist another human being in their evolution by interacting with acupoints lying on the very surface of the physical body? So that's the penultimate chapter in the book, folks, and it goes on to a chapter called Ancestral Energy, about experiences having to do with exactly that, personal ancestry and family ancestry. But before we go into that topic, what I'd like to do, with your permission, Kumiko, is
Yes.
guide you through the exercise which came about a year ago, set of exercises. And I call it the Ling Gong. It's like a Chinese Qigong form, very meditative. And it came to me while I was doing a treatment using the Ling points, and my body began to move spontaneously, which was a bit dangerous during a treatment. So I hang on to that experience and came back to it later, and it showed me what it wanted to do. My body showed me these exercises. So with your permission, Kumiko, I'd like us to sit down or stand up. You can do this standing if you like to. I do it sitting down, but that's completely your choice. And I'll guide you through these 6 exercises for the Ling. So join me, please. Sure. I'm going to sit on my futon here.
Okay.
And my zabuton. Here we go. And lead you through these simple exercises and teach you the 5 Ling points and the hopefully something about the essence of the character, the Chinese-Japanese character for Ling. So if you're standing up, rest your soles of your feet widely and long, front and back evenly matched. Find the point in the middle of your foot, kidney 1, Yongquan, bubbling spring. Center your weight into that point and then raise your spine up to the top of your head to govern a vessel. 20, and enjoy the presence of your dantian in the lower abdomen. If you're sitting down like me, make sure you have support underneath your sitting bones. What that does is tip you forward so your pelvis rolls forward slightly. It brings your knees closer to the ground. It makes you more stable, and it allows your spine to rise up easily, effortlessly in your back, to hold the miracle of the neck and the skull with the sensory organs and the brain, all of those amazing wonders. And of course, in the middle of all of that, the pineal gland, the source of infinity within us. So resting ourselves into a standing or a sitting position, whichever is comfortable for you. If you're on a stool or if you're on a chair, make sure your back is straight away from the backrest and your feet are flat on the ground, if possible. The next thing I'd like you to do is to find a simple, comfortable, effortless position for your arms and hands. So, for example, it might look like this, it might look like this, it might look like this. For me, it usually looks like this. And that's just because of the way my body is and the way I'm created, the way my body is right now. Your position could be different, could be like this, and it may change because we're going to use this simple, effortless resting position after each exercise. And there are 6 exercises. The first 3 involve movement. The last 3 involve postures. Static postures, hopefully not too painful. Now, I've told you this is about the Ling points, 5 of them in the body. The first point we're going to be touching and working with is on the top of the skull. It's on the gallbladder channel, which may strike some of you as being unusual. You might not think the gallbladder is a specifically spiritual channel. Well, I'm here to tell you that it is. All channels are, but the gallbladder is no exception. Gallbladder 18 at the top of the head, right next to governor 20, just either side of it, is called Cheng Ling, and it means Ling support or supporting the Ling. The exercise we're going to do is quite simply to push our hands out to the sides and up, and then point the fingers down to that point, through that point, and all the way down to the sitting bones and into the soles of your feet if you're standing. And then your hands will come back, and then we'll do that again. Make the movement as easy, as smooth, as graceful, and as effortless as possible. So a lot of wu wei here, people. A lot of effortless, easy, soft, and graceful movement. You'll notice that the movement acquires power the more you do it. So that's part of the exercise, of course, but we don't put any force into it. Just the amount of energy needed to get your fingertips to the top, above those 2 points, and then allow your arms to relax back down again, and then just push them out to the sides, and they come up of them by themselves into that spot and down. The gallbladder 18 at the top of the head, Chengling, supporting the universal soul. Some people call it the numinous, which is a difficult word to really grasp, but it's an excellent word because it sounds so wonderful. It's very suggestive and it's very poetic in that sense. So it's a great word, numinous. Look it up. It's a great word. How many times do we do this, you might be asking? Well, as many as you like. A lot of people have told me that these exercises are good for the shoulders. Well, that's just purely accidental. I had no idea that there was going to be any benefit to any anatomical part of the body when I found these, or they found me. For me, they don't really have all that much of a physical effect, much more of a soul energy effect. After a while, I kind of get the feeling I've done enough of that. So I just rest my arms back in my comfortable position. So you just choose your position. This is mine. Yours can look a bit different, or it could be exactly the same. It doesn't have to be symmetrical, by the way. If you want one hand up, one hand down, any of these positions, fantastic. Just as long as it costs you nothing, no effort, no energy, just relaxed. And we feel the effect of that first exercise, working with gallbladder 18, Chengling, supporting the Li. Presently, we move on to the second exercise, and that exercise relates to the point in the back. It's a point in the spine on the governor vessel. A lot of people are familiar with the point governor vessel 11, Shendao, Shindo, the way of the spirit. That's a very famous point. The one below it is the one we want to focus on today. It's not at all as well known, but perhaps it will be soon once this gets out into the big wide world. Ling Tai. Now, Ling Tai, in the books, you'll see it means Ling Tower or Ling Platform. But according to students who I've taught this to, it means Ling Plateau, which is a very interesting image to carry with you. The plateau gives you a view of the surrounding countryside for miles around. Interesting. But it could be the tower and it could be the platform. We're not too sure about that. The movement is towards the spine. And if you think about where the point is, if you do this with your hand, that's a 90-degree angle there. This will allow you, if you can feel the tip of your shoulder blade behind you, to find where the point is, because it's level with the tip of the shoulder blade, just slightly above in the spine. So that's where you're aiming for with this movement. How does the movement look? It looks like this. Arms moving forwards softly, spiraling outwards, and then your thumbs come to the back to reach this area of your back. And if you can't reach that area, if your arms stop lower down, don't worry about it. Your body knows where you want to get to. And then release your arms to come back to the front. Forwards, outwards, turning, spiraling, and to the spine. Relax shoulders, relax elbows in the position, and then spiral back again. Again, people have said this is great for their shoulders. Well, that's just purely accidental. I had no idea that was going to happen. If your shoulders are hurting, you might notice a difference before and after. If your shoulders are not hurting, you might just notice an increased freedom and fluidity in the movement of your shoulders, because this movement does free the shoulders from the chest and it frees the shoulder blades from the back. Both really useful things to do. So we're touching, or at least connecting with, directly or indirectly, governor vessel 10, Ling Tai, the platform or tower or plateau of the universal soul. If you're thinking about your breath, well, that's because your breath is reminding you that it's part of what's going on. It wants to be a big part of what's going on. And what will happen is, if you allow it to do so, your breath will synchronize with these movements and then empower the movements. The breathing will potentize your movements. So you don't have to do anything, you just have to notice that's what's happening. How many repetitions do we do? As many as you like. One is enough. If you're feeling like your shoulders just can't take it and your arms are too stiff, just do one, stop, relax. Maybe you can do 2 next time. If you can do 15, 20, go ahead and do it. If you're just interested in doing 3 or 4 just to test it out, that's fine. I'm going to rest now and relax into my neutral position here. You choose your own position, whichever it might be. Don't worry about it at all. Just allow your body to relax into its chosen position. And we feel the effect of the second exercise using and activating Ling Tai, Governor Vessel 10. Let's do my 10. Naturally, there are all kinds of physiological effects of these exercises. You're affecting the lungs, you're affecting the heart, pericardium, shoulders, arms, chest, back. There's all sorts of things going on the spine, of course.
Excuse me, Chris.
Yes.
Hi, it's Sarai Marina.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I wanted to know, when you said you make your arm like a 90-degree angle, so the point along the tip of the bottom of the scapula is 11, and then 10 would be a little below?
No, that's 10.
Oh.
10 is that one.
So 10 is the one that's in line with the,
yeah,
with
when
the
your
arm.
arms like that.
Okay, got it.
Great.
Thank
Nice
you.
question. Thank you for clearing that up. That's really good, by the way. Anybody's got a question about anything, just unmute yourself, ask the question, bang, we communicate. Perfect. So where were we? Yes, we were in the gap, as it were, the space in between the second and the third exercise. The third exercise relates to the point at the front of the body, which I'm showing you right now, kidney 24. Now, it's a point that doesn't get used very much. It doesn't get talked about very much. The point below it and the point above both have Shen in their name. They get talked about more, but the Ling point usually gets passed over because people don't understand what Ling is. So it's about, oh, I don't know. I'm here to tell you all about it, and I'm here to give you the experience so you know all about it, and then you can use it in your treatments for yourself, for your friends, family, loved ones, and for your patients, of course, and teach your students if you're instructing. How do we do the exercise? This is basically the opposite of the last one we just did. This one relates to the front. So how we do it, we allow the hands to go back out, spiral around like gigantic wings, and then land softly with 3 fingers, 1, 2, 3, in between the ribs here, next to the breastbone in the middle. Here's where the soft part of the flesh begins, the intercostal muscles, and then allow the hands to relax. Imagine a bird of majestic stature sweeping its wings easily and smoothly in the air, rising, flying, soaring, and that brings you into contact with your Ling and Shen points, of course, but we're mainly interested in the Ling point here, kidney 24, Ling Shu. Now, Shu is a word that means several different things, and in the books, you'll see it translated usually as burial mound. Well, that has a certain amount of interest if you're trying to resurrect somebody's spirit, somebody who feels dead to the world or dead to themselves. That's a very interesting image, isn't it? But for me, it doesn't mean that necessarily. It means ceremonial mound. On the ceremonial mound, we perform ceremonies, we perform rituals, we connect with the universal soul, with the universal spirit. That, for me, is much more the meaning of this point. It doesn't negate the pathological meaning, but it certainly opens up to a much, much wider avenue of meanings and dimensions. If we bear in mind the meaning of the word Ling and the fact that the shaman is within the character of Ling, then we understand that the ceremonial mound has an enormous value and importance, not just symbolically, but in terms of our life and the way we live our lives and the way we find ourselves sometimes in nature on places which could easily be ceremonial mounds, or in fact are designated ceremonial mounds. Here we have one within the body on the kidney meridian in the area of the heart. The kidney meridian represents the essence of the physical existence, The heart meridian represents the essence of the spiritual existence. They meet in what is called Tai Yin, the internal yin, the core yin. And this area here in the center of the chest is their nodal zone, where the energies are most potent, most concentrated. And here we activate Ling Shu, Ling, symbolic, ceremonial, hill or mount. How many repetitions? As many as you like. Now your shoulders have been activated in several different ways. Relax, please, completely. Allow your arms to be heavy. Allow your hands to relax in a completely neutral position. Allow yourself to feel and reap the benefits of that third exercise, added to the second and the first exercises. Of course, this is a cumulative experience. We're gathering knowledge, insight, and expression of Ling as we go through these exercises. At the beginning of the series, I mentioned that 3 of the exercises, the first 3, involve movement, and you've seen those movements, you've tested them, you've tried them, hopefully you've learned them more or less now. Come back to the recording, and that's there for you anytime, and you can learn them in your own time, gradually and slowly. The second part of the exercise series consists of 3 postures where there's very little movement. The only movement is to move into the posture and out of the posture. We move now into the arms, into the heart meridian, and we do so by simply shifting our arms to this shape. Now, I'm resting the small intestine meridian here on my knee, and I'm creating a circle with my arms so that my fingers point to each other through the shape of the large circle. That large circle then travels through the arms and through the chest, in both directions, of course. It travels through the back area of the chest. It travels through the front area of the chest, and of course, through the central area of the chest, including the lungs, including the pericardium, and including the heart. We're in the business right now of opening heart 2. Let me show you where heart 2 is. You'll feel a little piece of bone here at the bottom of your elbow. If you place 4 fingers there, that will take you to heart 2. And it's just above the piece of bone that you can feel and tendon there. In a very soft and quite tender spot. That's heart 2. And let me tell you the name of heart 2 right now. Don't laugh. It's called Qingling. So that was Chengling. This is Qingling. Completely different meaning. Qing means blue-green. Blue-green is the primary color on the cover of my book. So I've honored Ling with the character, the Chinese character in gold, but with the colors of alchemy, the blue, green, or teal color on the cover of the book there. We're experiencing the Qingling, the point that we usually call heart 2. Now you know it's called Qingling, the blue-green Ling, the blue-green universal soul. Blue-green being, according to some authorities, the color of alchemy. Alchemy being the practice of transformation. What does alchemy mean? It means transforming base materials into refined spirit. Previously, people have used the image of transforming lead into gold. And that's just an image, of course. It's a metaphor. It's poetry. When we transform lead into gold, what we're doing is transforming ourselves from flesh, blood, and bone into pure spirit. And the Ling is here to help us do that. And Qingling, heart 2, is one of our key aspects, one of our key tools to achieve our alchemy, our personal transformation. And if at any time you find yourself sitting in this position, well, that's fantastic, isn't it? You're just doing Qigong, meditation, alchemy. You're working with the 3 treasures, transforming the base of your essence through Qi into Shen, into nothingness, connecting with the great universal soul of Ling. After a certain point, maybe you'll tire of this position or feel that, okay, I want to move on. I'm done, thank you. And you move back into whatever your comfortable position might be, your neutral, comfortable, effortless position. Lots of wu wei here, right, folks? Lots of mushin. No effort. But of course, it's very, very focused non-effort, exactly as it should be. We feel and we experience now the effects of the fourth exercise, very static, but very powerful. And opening and activating heart 2, Jingli. This period in between the exercises, sit for as long as you're comfortable. There's no need to rush, but you don't have to sit forever. 1 or 2 breaths is enough. If you're feeling like you don't have much time, you're in a hurry, you want to get on to the next exercise, whatever. So there's no time limit either way. As fast as you like, as slow as you like. There's no limits when it comes to Ling, right? Our 5th position, we begin to open the 5th and final Ling point, and it's called Ling Dao, and it's heart 4, and you'll find it near your wrist. So you all know probably that heart 7 is on the wrist itself, right next to that little tendon and in the wrist crease. That's heart 7. Now you're going to go heart 6, heart 5, heart 4. So it's 1.5 sun from heart 7, heart 4. Ling Dao, the way of Ling. How do we open it? We simply turn the arms forwards and down. And as we do so, again, we create this gigantic circle that goes through the fingers in both directions, through the arms, and through the chest, back side through the back muscles, under the shoulder blades, through the spine, front side through the chest muscles, through the breasts in ladies, through the center of the chest. That means through the lungs, through the pericardium, the heart sac, and through the heart itself. Touching the emperor heart Shen energy. So here we combine the Ling with the Shen. Our personal spirit unites with the universal soul. If this position is painful for you, rest yourself back immediately into your comfortable, neutral, effortless position. No need to cause yourself any pain or distress. The Ling will be there waiting for you forever, throughout eternity. So you can do this again later on tonight or tomorrow or the next week. Whenever you're ready, it will be there waiting for you. Just check out the video, the recording of today, and join me as we do this. Connecting of the Shen, the personal spirit, with the great universal soul. Timeless, no spatial limits. My breath tells me to finish right there. That's done for today. Rest. Relax. Feel the sense, the movement, the space opening up within you and around you of the Ling, the great universal spirit. Now part of you, you are part of it, as always, of course, but now more consciously, with more awareness. And we have one final exercise, number 6. And for this one, again, it's a static posture. And again, if the posture is painful for you in any way, just come straight back out of it. Don't worry about staying there and suffering. Come back to your neutral position and wait for us to join you. We raise our arms up, palms up to heaven. My palms are facing the ceiling. Again, creating a gigantic circle going around through the arms, through the hands, through the fingers, but also through the chest area and through the heart. We consider once more the Chinese character, the kanji for tamashi, rei. That means, that's the rei in Reiki, by the way, people, if you hadn't figured that out. And in Chinese, ling. We went through it earlier on. Let's recap. The upper part of the character represents that which comes from heaven. Usually it means thunder or lightning. It means snow or rain. It means mist, anything that comes from heaven, any kind of precipitation or energy emanating from above, from the heavens. The middle part of the character was 3 boxes. Could be 3 gifts, could be entryways or exit ways into other worlds, other dimensions. It could be mouths open in awe as the wonder of the shaman's work is revealed. And of course, the lowest part of the character, the lowest of the 3 parts, is the shaman. That's you right now in your position, relating to heaven with the gifts, with the entry and exit ways, and with your sense of awe and wonder at the miracles of the universe in your very person and everything happening around you, every moment, every day, awake or asleep. Relax yourself back into your comfortable, neutral, effortless position. Take stock of the feeling within your body, around your body, in your soul, in your emotional body, in your mental body, every aspect of your being. Now, inundated, saturated with the energy of the Ling, the universal soul energy. And know that these exercises are available for you anytime. This is being recorded, so you can come back and watch them anytime. If you want to know more about the points themselves, it's all in the book, Poetry of Touch. That's there for you. The book exists as a paper book now. It's coming out any second, any day now. It exists as an ebook, of course, and it also exists as an audio book, spoken by me, my voice, so it's as authentic as it can possibly be. That's available in all the regular stores, all your regular outlets. It's there already. All of this stuff's there available for you. No need to panic or think that, oh, what if? No problem at all. It's all there available for you, waiting for you. Relax now into the moment, into the eternal moment. The moment reaches back in time forever, reaches forwards into every eventuality, every timeline possibly imaginable. Imagine the ones now that you want. Imagine the timeline of maximum freedom, maximum abundance, maximum joy, maximum sharing, abundance in nature, freedom for every human being, every sentient being, past, present, future. Wealth and abundance for every person on the planet. Health, wealth, freedom, community, and people pursuing the real purpose of their lives, their real, true destiny becoming apparent to them. Giving back to the earth, giving back to creation. Visualize your perfect future for yourself, your family, your loved ones, your colleagues, your friends, your students, your teachers, your friends, your enemies, everyone sharing in perfect joy as we move into our perfect future. Create that future now. As you breathe, as you relax, as you feel the Ling permeate your existence in its entirety. And gradually and very slowly bring that with you back as I rejoin you at the screen, and you hopefully rejoin me at the screen, and whoever's out there watching this streamed, join us. Time doesn't exist, remember? So we're right here, right now, together. And we'll round off the session with Kumiko guiding us.
Wow, what a great exercise. Thank you. Is there any questions? Sarah, you okay? Good to see you. Yeah.
Likewise, Kumiko, it's been a long
Thank
time.
you.
I live in Pennsylvania now.
Yes, yes. Everybody's away, but we are together. Like Chris said, the energy is one. And
I have a question.
Yes?
Thank you. I'm sorry, Kumiko. Chris, yeah, I wanted to know when you were talking about the points and like in your book, like how you were working on them. when you were working on them, you were actually touching them, right? Or was it not these exercises? It's a little different, right? Like I'm just a little bit.
So there's two ways. I use acupuncture and shiatsu. So sometimes I actually put needles and sometimes I touch with my hands, my fingers.
Okay.
So both methods.
So could one do this on oneself, like just do the acupressure, you know?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
But it wouldn't be the same.
In a sense, that's what the exercises are there to do, to mobilize them even more powerfully. But absolutely, if you want to just touch them as you're lying in bed, or if you're sitting talking to somebody, or if you're lying in a field or on the beach, or just about wherever, lying in your hammock. And you can touch them on your dogs, on your kids.
Do them in order? Do them in order, right?
You can choose which order, but the order that has been selected for us through these exercises is from the most yang to the most yin.
See.
So that may have some significance for you. And it's also from the ones which are most external, right, with the geographical names of on top of the head, that's really like a hard, bony yang place. In the spine, that's very yang, and it's the plateau or the tower. And then there's the front, which is the heel. But then we go into the alchemy. We go into the internal aspects of the points, and then finally the essence of the character, as the Chinese and Japanese have described it through history in this incredible pictogram that the character represents. So for me, there is a meaning to the sequence, but that's not in any way, shape, or form to mean that you cannot choose your own sequence.
And when we're doing the silent ones, right, the ones that when like you were mentioning heart tooth, so we just imagine the energy running through, or we just sit there? We don't have to imagine.
Yeah. If you want to imagine the energy flowing, then that heightens the experience, right? And some people really enjoy that kind of visualization, feeling experience, but some people can't quite grasp it, and it just occupies their mind in a non-helpful way. So for those people, I would recommend just sit.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not very visual.
The energy.
I'm more kinesthetic. I have trouble visualizing. So.
Well, that's great. Whatever. Really, you choose your way to interact with these things. I give that information for people who like to do visualization, who like to do those kind of things.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Wow. After this exercise, I feel so much energy that I have to give away.
Yeah, just spread it. Just spread it. No need to hold it. The more you spread, the more it comes through you, right?
Definitely.
I had a question the other day, Kumiko, from somebody who was asking me, but what's the next stage when you're doing Qigong? What's the next stage? I mean, how do you gather the energy? How do you generate? How do you store the energy? And I said, well, it's not really a question of storing the energy. It's a question of being a vessel for the energy. If we imagine a pipe and there's water flowing through the pipe, then the more the water flows through, the more it takes with it all of the sediment, all of the obstructions, all of the stuff that's kind of accumulated, and it becomes a free flow, powerful flow. And this is what we become. Once we do these exercises for enough time, we become that flow, that conduit to everybody else around us. So we don't need to hold it for ourselves. We simply allow it to flow through us more and more freely, more and more powerfully. And then it just shares naturally to everybody we come in contact with. And that means the guy at the gas station, the women down the corner shop, the person walking their dog, your next door neighbor, even the people who don't even like you or think you're annoying. They get it too.
Yeah, we become powerful the more we connect universal energy, and we stand between heaven and earth. The more we become clear, and we become good servant of this planet.
By the way, Kumiko, look at the kanji on the roof of my clinic.
I see it. Heaven.
It means heaven, yeah.
Yeah.
10 in Chinese, 10 in Japanese. And underneath my mat, somebody wove the character for earth in dawn in the carpet. So I have heaven and earth underneath and above my patients when practicing. And when I'm practicing on the mat, I have that too.
Wonderful.
Can I share something?
Please.
Okay, I find it so interesting, like the whole idea that the points are like, I mean, the way I understood what you were saying, it's like they're almost like conduits for the soul, it seems, like they're not just physical points. They're like actually connected to our souls. And I just recently, about a year and a half, started practicing something called Pangu Qigong. And it's very simple. You know, it's it's like a movement sequence, like doing circles and, with your hands. And you know, what was so interesting is that I had only been doing it maybe a week, 2 weeks. And I happened to travel to Peru to see my daddy. And okay, so how do I make a long story short? So anyway, my father was staying at my brother's house now because my father was starting to lose his memory, So I was sleeping with him in the same room on the first floor, right? And there's these doors that are like glass doors, right? Now, I remember that first night I slept there, I was like freaked out a little because they kept going. And it sounded like an earthquake. And I lived in Peru when I was little, and I know what it sounds like when there's going to be an earthquake. And I thought there was a tremor starting. So I told the lady that was there helping to take care of my daddy, I said, "Is that a tremor?" And she says to me, "No, it's the wind. It's the wind blowing." I said, "Really?" And I just like tried to calm down. And this kept going on like for 3 days. Every night I would hear boo, 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 boo. And it would still freak me out a little because I have that unconscious memory from when I was little. Sure. So then I think maybe on the 4th or 5th day, I actually taught this lady the Pangu form because it helps you to heal others too. And I thought, well, it could help her and it could help my daddy, So we practiced that night. You know what's so weird? The rattling of the windows stopped. And I practiced every night. Every night I would do them like about 3 or 4 forms. And I noticed the rattling totally stopped. That freaked me out. To me, it seems like maybe it wasn't just the wind. Because what's weird is that I never noticed really any wind, okay? So I always like, that's weird because I don't feel, it's not windy. I mean, my father did live right next to the beach. That house was right next to the ocean, but I never heard any wind. But after the Pangu, it totally stopped. And okay, you might think I'm crazy, okay? But in my heart, I feel like maybe that was spirit activity. It was spirits. And somehow, for some reason, doing this Pangu just stopped it. It was so strange, like, I mean, you couldn't deny it stopped totally. Anyway.
What does Pangu mean?
Pangu's the name of God, I believe, in Chinese, according to the man who developed this, Master O Wen Wei.
Okay.
Pangu's the name of God.
Okay. Anyway, look, about wind, wind is part of Chinese medicine, right? It's an aspect, and they usually nowadays regard it just as one of the 5 pernicious influences. But previously in history, wind was synonymous with spirits. They used the word wind because the word spirits began to be a little bit edgy. People weren't comfortable with it because we're supposed to be doing Chinese medicine, with yin and yang and the 12 channels. We're not talking about spirits anymore. We're going back a couple of thousand years here. So there was a change from talking about spirits to talking about wind for a long time, but it meant the same thing. There's a chapter in the book about all of that stuff, all about wind. So wind is a huge subject in Chinese medicine. It's not discussed very often, which is a shame, because when we look at the history of Chinese medicine, we go back far enough, it becomes shamanic. Right now it's not, but it becomes it very, very easily. And Ling is the quickest way to get into the shamanic side of Chinese medicine. It's like a shortcut. Boom, you're there immediately. So this Qigong is like to put you there, straight there, in a safe kind of way.
Fantastic.
Great. Any
so
more
fascinating. Sorry, it's so fascinating. I don't know. I'm a little overwhelmed.
Is this Chinese?
Very overwhelmed at the moment.
Chinese.
Yes, that's me, Chinese. I'm looking forward to getting your book. I just feel overwhelmed. I don't know what to say.
There it is.
Okay, great, great. I'm so looking forward to reading that.
It'll take you a while. It took me 15 years to write it. It'll probably take you a few weeks to get through it. But it's a book, like we were saying before, you can just open it any time and read a couple of pages, and that's enough for a couple of weeks, probably.
That's great. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. Look, to be feeling a little bit overwhelmed is cool, because remember the Ling character, the middle 3, the little boxes there in the middle?
Yeah. Yes.
That means awe. It means we can't even describe what it is that we're seeing and feeling. And sometimes we see, like, we come around the corner and we see, hey, who's this? We come around the corner and we see a rainbow, and it's like, or we see like a deer in a field, or we see something amazing and it just stops our breath. This is the Ling moment. So always grasp those moments, cherish those moments, and then go into those moments. You're inside the ling at that point. So it's a really, really great feeling to cultivate. Being, okay, a little bit overwhelmed can be frightening, but just grab the magic of it, the awe of that experience, and go into it, go with it, keep it with you, cherish it, allow it to lighten up your life.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. I hope.
Thank you, Kumiko.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you opened the gates, opened the door for everybody.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Marina. Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
So
There's
everybody,
another Marina.
yeah, please enjoy the miracle of life.
Yes, indeed.
Every day is a miracle we are facing. What a treasure. So enjoy your day and see you soon. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Kumiko. Thanks, everybody.
you.
Ciao.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.